All right. Well, hello. I'm Richard Austin. I'm Business Development Manager with BlueStar, and I'm here today with my colleague Jord Malcorps and Mitchell Chamberlain from StarMicronics. That is. We're going to be talking about developments in how we order food today. So, guys, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure,
Jord.
Sure. As you said, Jord Malcorps. I'm working for BlueStar now about 8 years and run the business development side for POS and payment in Europe.
Sounds great. My name's Mitch. I have been at Star for about 12 months and I work in the UK as a business development manager. I have a keen interest in this podcast, and thank you very much for having me on board today.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So as I say, we're going to talk about developments in how we order food, how that relates to technology and the industry that we're in. I think we just dive straight into it. I think let's get on with it. I think we've got lots of interesting things to talk about. Hopefully, we've got lots of interesting things to talk about. Otherwise, this isn't going to be very good. But no, I'm sure we have. So, guys, talk to me. What's new? What's changed in the last couple of years in this industry? If we're talking about hospitality, the takeaway industry, what's new? What's changed? What's happening?
Well, I reckon we should probably take it back quite a few steps to the start where it all sort of where it all came from. Food delivery has been around for generations, and we could talk a little bit about where it all started. What was food delivery like when you were a lad? Like
in the 18th century, you mean?
Yeah, when everything was in black and white. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the food was in black and white as well. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think it was pretty much, a restaurant was a rare treat for me. Seriously, as a child, it was. And there were maybe a couple of takeaways nearby, but not too many. It was, very different. I mean, I think just if you look at the sheer volume of places where you can get food these days, that's definitely changed. If we're looking back 30, 40 years, there's definitely more places that you can you can go to get food. Yeah.
And what was like the process of ordering it? Like how would you, if you wanted to have a meal and take it back to your home, what was that process like?
Well, you would go to the takeaway and you would ask for the food, and then you would get the food, and then you would take it back to your house and eat the food.
Probably call the restaurant first and then pick it up.
If you were smart, you would call the restaurant first. Yeah. That's a good idea. I might do that in the future. Yeah, you would probably do that. Yeah. So I think, and obviously that's a lot different these days, right?
Oh, massively. And I mean, like, back before a lot of these technologies were around, the restaurant would be responsible for delivering the food as well. And now that's not the case. I mean, food delivery service, a food delivery app has been around, like Deliveroo's been around since 2013. So it's hard to think that's nearly 10 years ago that app was around and just made in the UK. And that really sort of revolutionized what happened in that space, gave you an application where you can go on your phone, you can have multiple restaurants, multiple different food places, you can browse if you want Mexican, Italian, anything you want really, on one service, and then a few buttons and it's getting collected by a delivery driver and getting delivered to your house. It's interesting to think about how that's changed.
It's definitely a lot easier than it used to be. Yeah,
definitely. Back in the day, I think it was way more expensive than it is today, right? Especially for fees for restaurants to work with a platform like that, like Deliveroo. I think back in 13, 14, it cost them 20-25% of the actual shared revenue that the restaurant had. So for restaurants, I think back in the day it was tough to kind of implement this structure and implement this technology, because they just lost, a lot of money. I think, especially, if you just called up the restaurant, they had full revenue, right? Full 100% revenue.
Yeah.
And now it's, back in the day, I think when it all started, it's like 20-25% that they had to, deliver and, give back to the actual platforms, which is, quite a lot. But I think with competition and new platforms coming on, that changed a lot.
Oh, massively. Sure. It's not just the, monopoly of the big guys, one or two apps. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of delivery apps out there now, and that are in that space. And the competition has obviously driven the margin down that is needed to have these services on the restaurants. I think it's great. Like like it must be a utopia you live in, Richard. Like this, go on an app and order some food, not have to walk down to the restaurant. Like
I sometimes can't believe how privileged I am. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the more recent history, and I think to do that you really have to talk about the pandemic of the last couple of years and
Definitely.
what changes has that brought about most recently? What have been the kind of impacts of the pandemic on food ordering and perhaps the technology
Well, I think
involved
with
in
food
that?
ordering, it accelerated pretty heavily in COVID, right? Because of course, everything closes, all the restaurant closes. You could not go out and actually, eat something in store. So I think that really took off in the delivery platforms, and they went bigger and they went larger. And I think a lot of consumers started using, this kind of application.
a lot of restaurants as well. Like I mean, before there would have been people out there that didn't want to or were afraid of these delivery apps, and they had to keep trading really, because the need for wanting your curry on a Tuesday night was still there, but you couldn't go down to your local curry house and have a curry, so you ordered one to your home.
Yep.
Right? And like the pandemic really drove that, because it was you needed to do it to keep trading, and
Contactless delivery, basically. Contactless food ordering, right?
I think because of these platforms, basically a lot of restaurants stayed alive in COVID, right? I think if it wasn't for these platforms, a lot of businesses would be bankrupt today. Restaurants, for sure.
a lot more.
More, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's either implement changes or close down. And all right, you can close down temporarily, you can furlough your staff, but I think for a lot of restaurants and chefs especially, it's their art, it's what they do. They want to carry on working, and plus, people, I think especially after a few weeks of being locked down, they were definitely keen to get something that they didn't have to cook for themselves. So
normality almost, so it's a bit of normalness back in your life. I was talking to like this person mid pandemic, and he was saying that his brother owns a pizza shop, and the sort of few years leading up to before the pandemic, he bought this pizza shop and he was running it. It was going all right. It was not lighting the world on fire. And then pandemic hit, and he was getting staff members. He was employing people that had been furloughed because people wanted jobs, and he was paid off his mortgage and everything within the first 6 months of the pandemic. His pizza shop flew. Yeah,
it's definitely. I think it's been good for the businesses that have innovated and taken on adapted to the changes and taken on the new technology. I think it's been good for them, and also I think what's really interesting is that a lot of what things that came in during the pandemic. So the ease that you can order food, the massive choice that you have getting food delivered, these things that we're talking about. I think what's interesting is that a lot of them seem to have stayed with us as we've come out of lockdown as well. So you don't have to have a contactless delivery anymore, but actually people really like contactless delivery. They like the fact that they can get food delivered. They don't have to go out and talk to somebody. They can stay in their pajamas all day and just have food brought to them. And maybe not every day, but that's those days are quite good, right? So
100%. Yeah, I can completely agree. I mean, I live in London in an apartment block, and there's a constant barrage of delivery drivers at the gate looking to get let in. It's constant. And
is that just for you, or do you have other people in the building?
Well, me and my girlfriend, we like to partake in these technologies. but yes,
you're not hungry. You're just supporting the technology, right?
Of course, yeah. I've just got a big pile of food in my flat.
Well, I think it's the new norm these days, right? It didn't go away. We, of course, the whole transition of when in COVID, it didn't go away after, right? Everybody is still ordering through these platforms. And for me, it's the new normal, right? I don't cook anymore that much at home.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot of delivery.
The online food delivery market in 2021 in Europe was worth about $36 billion US, which is 10 billion more than in 2020. And the experts, they anticipate that by 2025 it's going to be worth well over $60 billion US. That's a lot of money.
That's huge, yeah.
For one tiny service,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And is this another question really? Is this just for takeaways, or does this does this apply to other types of food outlets as well?
Well, it does. I think, the recent change, I think, is the 10-minute delivery grocery shopping, basically. So grocery stores that, deliver in 10 minutes by, Gorillas, DoorDash, all these kind of companies, especially the millennials and, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're just used to it, right? It's their thing, basically. They're grown up with it, and they're kind of expecting this 10-minute delivery also in that area. So it's changing in many directions as well, in many platforms, for sure.
Yeah.
Their whole life in full color, full high definition 4K color, not like the black and white you had as a young lad,
Yeah, it's just sepia toned youth. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think it's applicable to to in store as well, like having QR codes ordering at tables. I mean, I've known what QR codes are for a while because I'm a very sad man when it comes to that type of thing. But there's a lot of people out there that 3-4 years ago had no idea what a QR code was, and they're everywhere now. You can hardly go to a restaurant without having a QR code and ordering through some online platform. I think that was driven by the pandemic as well.
I think the pandemic and combined at the same time with the technology advancing to the point that it's so easy now to just scan a QR code through the camera on your phone. You open the camera. Even I can do it, right?
That's what we did last night, for example, right?
Yeah.
When we were out for dinner, we scanned the QR code, we just checked the menu online, and we ordered from there.
Absolutely,
It's the new normal, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's really easy, and I think as well that's so, how ordering works with takeaways is changing. As we say, how it's worked in restaurants is changing. Do we want to talk a little bit about ghost kitchens or dark kitchens?
Well, that's basically the transition. I think what happened, right? In COVID, restaurants were closed, so delivery guys just walked in, right? There was nobody sitting there eating their food. And I think that changes, of course, when restaurants are starting to open again. That whole thing kind of changes, right? Because just imagine sitting at a restaurant. I had it, a couple weeks ago, sitting at a restaurant, just eating with my girlfriend. And then out of nowhere, there's the delivery guys just walking in, next to your table, start to pick up food. It's not really a nice experience, especially when you're in a fancy past restaurant. Yeah, you don't want that, right?
With his helmet on, not
exactly,
taking his helmet
off,
the
big bags on,
waving his phone about,
Yep. So that changed, of course, the whole concept of, what are we going to do about that? And I think the whole ghost kitchen, dark kitchen, how you want to call it, just implemented that kind of piece. So basically what that does is they build kitchens for you, or, you invest in your own kitchen. And it's a store, or it's a dark kitchen where there's no employees, walking around. You cannot sit down there. It's basically just a pickup point. It's just pushing out food, and all the delivery guys are just standing in line there waiting to collect. But it actually, the experience in the restaurants is way easier now because it's just better.
Yeah, especially if you've got quite a small restaurant. Maybe you've only got 20 covers in the restaurant, or
exactly.
The addition of 5 delivery drivers to that, especially if it's a popular restaurant, it's just carnage, isn't it? Really, and
yep.
They don't want to wait outside on a cold night or something. So it's good. The other thing that the other kind of technology, I guess, for want of a better word, that I've seen that addresses that is, you can actually get lockers, so they can they sit at the back of the kitchen, and once the food's prepared, the food's put into the locker, and then the driver goes around the back of the restaurant instead of coming through the front door, and basically is able to access those lockers using the app. So the I don't know, QR code or NFC, whatever it is, that allows them to open the locker, only opens the locker for the food that they're supposed to collect, and
exactly.
it's there, it's kept warm until they're ready to be there, and they're not trailing their muddy motorcycle boots through the restaurant to get the food. Yeah,
I guess that helps out with the security element of it as well, because if it's in a certain locker, you definitely know that it's your curry that you've had all your extra little bits added to, and it's not some generic curry that the next person ordered. Because I think they've improved quite a lot over the last couple of years. The security or the processes, so you get your right food. Because there's nothing worse than waiting sometimes half an hour, 45 minutes for your food, and then they get there and they've forgotten your chips, or forgotten your naan bread or something like that.
Yeah, it definitely takes human error out of the equation, doesn't it? It's yeah.
You see the locker concept, I think, also take it to a new place, especially on grocery deliveries. The urban market, for example, it's a very good concept that is now live in San Francisco. It's basically a robotic concept of a warehouse where there's no employees, and basically the grocery store just delivers to this actual locker, or to this robotic locker basically, and all the guys just come in there and collect it from that point, or you yourself as a consumer collect it from that point. Because there's also a safety thing that comes into place right now, where you see so many bicycles, so many scooters and stuff, with these delivery platforms. Also, in the suburbs, for example, right? If you just, kids playing there on the street, and all these guys are coming past, driving pretty fast on their electric bikes, it's not a safe environment for a lot of, suburbs, I would say. So that's also, I think, where, there's a lot of change going on into this, pick up on a, certain area where it's, safer for, there's not many kids playing or whatever. That will change as well in the next couple of years, I think. There's a lot of change in that.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, just change across the board, right? And I think the other thing is consumers. So what do we know about what consumer behavior is driving the changes?
Well, they really want that personalized experience, and there are some people that don't want to talk to people. They want to go into a store, sit down at the table, have a quiet meal, scan the QR code, get their stuff delivered. These are the same people that order the food back to their houses and don't want to be bothered by people. And also, it's a lot easier to open up an app on your phone, have a few buttons, get it delivered, rather than calling somebody up, getting them to write it down, putting that docket into the kitchen. It's just very convoluted process for something that has now been resolved with this technology.
That old process leaves it much more open to error as well, doesn't it? If you if you do it on an app, it's it's kind of computerized the process, hasn't it?
Exactly that. I mean, one of my first jobs was working in a cafe, and the chef absolutely hated it when I was on the till because I've got doctor's handwriting and couldn't read what I was saying. So the amount of people that got their eggs cooked wrong because my bad handwriting, I'd hate to think of that horde of people that are going to come after me,
Yeah, definitely, yeah. It's I mean, what else? What other things are we seeing with consumers? The changes that whether it's because of the pandemic or other changes. What else are we seeing that's driving the industry to develop technology to address these changes?
Well, I think one big thing is the next generation, right? Gen Z and the alphas. I think they pretty much dictate right now, what's the new normal, right? For them, food delivery within 10 minutes, that's a standard, right? For us, it's quite changeable, right? In the next, last couple of years, for us, this is almost magic, right? That your groceries are delivered in 10 minutes. For them, it's just normal. It's a standard, right? Yeah. They don't want anything else. That's just how they did it.
Gen Z and Alpha, what does explain to an old guy what that means?
Well, Gen Z, I think, is 95 and, born after 95. And the Alphas is, I think, 2002 or 2003. So that generation, I think in 2030, fun fact, the 95%, sorry, that's just totally wrong.
It's okay.
Okay, so Gen Z and the Alphas are 30% of the world population in 2030, right? Which is incredible. So 1/3 of the full population globally will be Gen Z and Alphas.
So that's 1/3 of the population is under 35 then, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the new era where, they will come up with solutions and they will come up with new technologies that, we just have to go with because they will dictate the market basically where it goes.
Yeah. So they've grown up in a world where they've never known that you would have to telephone a restaurant or even just go into a restaurant or a takeaway shop and ask for food. They've only known app-based ordering and
well, for us, for example, omnichannel is for us changing. That's a change in the last couple of years. For them, it's just the standard, right? What I said to you yesterday in the car, omnichannel is their dad's world. That's basically what it is, right? The Gen Alpha, for example, the first iPhone, they were 12 when it came out. So they are used to having a smartphone from the get-go, right? They always had this. It's just a total different generation.
I find it interesting that you see the videos online where you give like a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha person like one of those old phones that you with a dial on it, and they just go like, "What is this? How do I operate this?"
They have no clue what it is.
No clue. It's just funny how the world works like that, And it's interesting to see like what's gonna happen next as well. Is it going to be food deliveries in 9 minutes, or food deliveries in 8 minutes, or is it going to be a more personalized experience? So you go on the app and they know that your milk is expired in your fridge, and it just adds it to your basket automatically. Like,
well, that's what you see, I think, with AR and VR, right? You see a lot of the Alexas and the Googles from where you speak actually to the actual Google or Alexa. That's just changing, right? If it just for example, I think IoT will also be in the fridge and at certain point, so they know exactly when the milk is gone and they just reorder it, 10-minute delivery, and it's back in the fridge. I think that's where it goes to at certain point.
That's the world I want to live in.
Yeah,
don't have to think about my milk; it just gets delivered.
Yeah, I think as well as the just the systems at the moment, the apps or whatever. I think there's definitely. I mean, there are some really really good ones, and there are also some that are a little bit clunky, a little bit more difficult to use. There's a lot of room for that to improve. I think it's possible to make these, well, whether it's an app or whether it's just a QR code that takes you to a website. There's definitely room for improvement of just the process and how easy it is to use that, because I think people are, I don't know, maybe it's wrong to say that people are lazy, but people definitely are drawn towards things that work well and are efficient and save them time. And if there's a choice between something that works well, that's dead easy to use, compared to something that's a little bit, you've got to put a bit of effort into it, eventually the fittest apps, if you like, will survive, and those will be the ones that'll become the new standard, and then it's innovation on top of that you're looking for.
Yeah, you see it right now in all these social media platforms, right? For example, TikTok, I think the generation, they are good for $26 billion of shopping on TikTok. So it's just a crazy number to me.
That's a big number, yeah.
That's a very big number.
Okay, so just continuing from what we were talking about before, and slightly different angle on this, to what extent do we think that labour shortages are driving technology development within the hospitality takeaway restaurant market?
I think it's a massive contributor. I think it's almost as big as the pandemic driving it. I mean, there's
maybe the two are linked together, right? As well.
Well, possibly, yeah. I think, like all these people that were in hospitality, and when the pandemic shut those jobs down, they seeked employment elsewhere, and then haven't moved back to hospitality. I think it's a massive contributor, and it's not just the labor shortage either. It's the technology that goes into it, and the ease of onboarding people as well. So with these sort of ordering at table applications and food delivery applications, they can be ran on a browser. So the person can bring their own device in and use their own device instead of like a stored device, and they're a lot more user friendly than like the old sort of kiosk systems with the buttons and the convoluted things to change the pints of Foster's from half pints to pints. Like, it's just you click on it and then you say I want a pint. It's just a lot easier to use, so the onboarding is a lot easier. But yes, I would completely agree that the labor shortages is definitely driving this technology advancement.
For sure, yeah. I don't know if it's for the best though, because I think in some sense when you order something or you have an interaction with employee, I think that's also something that I like, right? Just have this little interaction with the customer and with the employment. It's I don't know if it's for the best right away, but it definitely changes.
Yeah, I think though, if the technology is there not to get rid of the person, but just to make them more efficient, to make them more helpful. Yeah. It's a little bit like if you look at a kiosk screen and it's prompting you for the next the next addition to your order. If there's that similar sort of technology in the software helping the server to prompt you with their next question, whether it's as simple as do you want fries with that, or is it, how do you want your steak, or maybe it's even helping them to remember that you're a customer that comes in regularly and that you usually have your steak medium rare, or that you're gluten free. The technology's there to help them make your experience in that restaurant better.
So, and I think that's very important, right? That it's not just pushing out employees, but it's actually helping the employees' efficiency.
And I mean, like I talk quite a bit with the guys that are designing the apps. That's where I put like a lot of my focus in my career. And talking to them and some of the things that are coming, it's mind-boggling. We got the ability to walk into the store, have your face recognized, and then you sit down at the table and they know that it's you and you want your steak medium rare and you don't like tomato sauce with your fries, you want barbecue sauce. So it's just unreal what's happening in that market and how it will continue to evolve as well. They'll not just for the person at the front of the store that's being prompted to sort of upsell and help out the revenue that these customers, the restaurants desperately need. It's working the back end on the same platform. Yep. So using the same AI technology on the front end that's recognizing you when you sit down, to know that September last year you had 36% more fries and that's going to trend to be this year. So you got to order the fries from the supplier so you don't run out, and it's just
it's taken the online to offline, I think, right? I think the social media where I think you all have done it as well. If you go on YouTube and you go into this rabbit hole where you get suggestions and you get kind of move to a personalization of kind of things. I think that's what bringing into the offline as well, right? When you walk in, exactly what you said, you want your fries with this or that. That's basically how it turned into online, and now it goes into the store and offline side. So it really changes that side from the actual social media into the store offline.
Yeah, and you can combine that with what you've got in stock, getting the server to promote what you've actually got there as well. And I think sometimes the technology needs to be there. Talking about labour shortages, if you're supposed to have 3 waiting staff, but actually only 1 turns up to work on a Saturday night, if you're not doing absolutely everything you can from every standpoint, but certainly from a technology standpoint, to make sure that they've got everything that they need to be able to do their job as quickly and efficiently as possible, then you, I think definitely missing a trick. I mean, I went to I know it's been going for a long time, but I went to Yo Sushi for the first time about 4 weeks ago. I've never been before. I know it's been going for ages, and I don't know what it used to be like before, but certainly, I mean, they've got it down to a really fine art. They've got the Leeds branch that I went to, they've got 3 chefs in there, but there's only 1 member of serving staff, and they're like, they greet you. We'd never been before, and as Mitch has quite kindly pointed out, I'm a little bit older, so they explained to us how we used the app, which was and found not in a patronising way, just here's how it works here, and then pretty much it's the chef. The chef makes the food in front of you, and it's delivered to you on the little conveyor belt train that they use. So it's a really, really good experience, and they've traded on that as a bit of a gimmick, or it's their way of doing things. But I think it's quite useful to be able to see how to actually see that stripped down, and how that same technology could be used in other areas. I suspect that the app is probably a relatively new addition to what they do, and plus payments all done on your phone as well, and it's a really, really great dining experience.
Yeah, it's this utopian world where you go in, you sit down, you don't have to, like, we've all been there. When you're at a restaurant and you've just finished your first beer and you're waiting for the waiter to come and get you so you can place an order for your second beer, and you're pretty much dying of thirst, waiting for them to come to your table, and now you just bish bom bam, beer's coming to your table. Like, this is the world that my grandfather dreamt of I could live in. Well,
and these applications, I think, are really applicable as well in festivals. You see it a lot right now, where if you go get a beer on a festival, you have to wait 25 minutes in line before your turn is to get a beer.
Yeah.
Now they have these apps, and you just order and they bring it to you. Actually, on the festival ground, it just come to you and actually bring it. It's a whole different world these days.
So your guys' vision of the future is just faster beer.
Faster beer, yeah. That's
a very important thing to me. Yes,
it is
very important.
It is the utopia. I'm not going to argue with you or disagree with that. Yeah,
the other flip side of it as well is labor shortages did drive this advancement in technology, or making, refining it. The technology was already there, but now restaurants have more money to reinvest into these technologies, and it's just going to be a forever grinding loop. And I'm excited for the day where I can go into a restaurant and I sit down. Like, it's scary to think about, but I sit down and the app knows what I want to eat before I know what I want to eat. You sit down, you scan the QR code, and Mitch, do you feel like a steak today? And I go, yes, I do, and just click order, one button, steak's coming out to the table.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, steak and beer, all good. So just moving slightly away from beer, unfortunately, for a second. What are the other markets in which this technology that's been developed and is coming along? What are the other main markets that we might see this type of technology, this ordering technology, be used in?
Well, I think it's already in retail a big thing, right? Like in clothing stores and stuff. And just for example, 97% of the actual Gen Z and alphas use TikTok and Instagram for their shopping, right? For their inspiration, for their shopping. So I think this also will, change into the actual retail store offline and take it from that point.
Yeah, no, like it's the mechanism is still there for the people to walk into the store and the AI and stuff that goes around it, and it's similar degree to the labor shortages as well. The people who are in the stores, they don't have the capacity to deal with everything that happens in a store, and the ability to order your clothes online, get them delivered, and then also the return aspect of it as well. I can't tell you like the amount of ASOS bags that are in my place because my lovely darling girlfriend loves to order 10 bits of clothing, try all 10 of them on, and then return 9 of them, or sometimes even 10 of them, like 4 times a week. It's like the technology that goes in that is very similar to this online ordering aspects, so
yeah. You also see in retail, of course, the actual store changes as well, right? If you, for example, I went to Hugo Boss a couple weeks ago, tried on tried a suit, was actually looking in the mirror, and the mirror suggested different colors to me, right? It just, the mirror changes and said, hey, maybe red looks good, and it changes into the red suit. I was still wearing a black suit, right? So also in retail itself, offline will change a lot in this side, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think especially with, kind of bringing it back a little bit to the collection technology that we're talking about, I mean, there's no difference really between being able to place an order, whether it's by Deliveroo or Uber Eats, and it be delivered to you, or it's ready for you to go in and collect, or the same technology if you're on the train on your way back from work, you're actually going to cook for yourself for once. You're not going to use one of the takeaway apps, but you can pre-order your groceries from your local convenience store that's between the train station and your house, pick it up before you get home, and that's definitely, especially in urban areas, that's the same technology applied for a different market, I would say.
Yeah, click and collect instead of pick and pack, like because that's going back to Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they've efficient people, efficient beings, and they they want to be as quick as possible about doing anything. So that 5 minutes it saves them walking around the store, they can have a look on their phone, and then they have it there waiting for them. That's a utopia for them. So
definitely. So we've talked a fair bit about the future and what technologies coming along the line. Is there anything else that we've not covered? Anything else that you guys want to particularly highlight in terms of what's coming, what's on the horizon in this space? What does it look like in 3 or 5 years' time from now? What sort of new trends, what sort of new technology do you think we're going to see coming through?
Well, I think VR and AR will take another step, definitely in the future. I think we're just not used to it right now, right? It's quite scary for a lot of people to talk into a microphone or to talk into like a device and actually talking back and recording that kind of stuff. But I think
okay, you're among friends, Jord. It's fine.
Yeah, sure. But I think in the future, definitely it will help. I think where we, just like we said on the fridge, right? You just order something online or through an actual talking application, and it just gets delivered without you even noticing. I think that will be the future, and I don't think it's us that will deal with it a lot, but I think definitely the next generation will be raised by it and just be normal with it, for sure.
Yeah, I look forward to being that that grandpa who's really bad at technology, like my grandpa was to me, and it's like I don't understand this mirror is changing my colors of my clothes. I just want to see what my black suit looks like, and it's just like, oh granddad, what are you doing? Like, that's gonna be us in 50 years' time.
I hope not.
Well, if it's any reassurance, it's not even 50 years' time for me. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I think as well that's a really important point. You have to take the advancements in technology. I think are going to have to take into consideration an aging population as well. I mean, all right, we've talked about the statistics there of 35 or 30%, a third of people will be under 35 by 2030. That still leaves a lot of older people as well, and the technology is able to advance at a pace that's really, really fast. But I think it also needs to be able to be usable by not just people who adapt very quickly at a young age to technology and probably have never known the world before YouTube and TikTok and all of these other things. They're not aware of what it was like before then. I think you also got to take into account that there's 65% of people who still probably just take a little bit more time to catch up. And if the technology can work for those people who are maybe in their 50s and 60s now, that in 10, 20 years time will be in the 70s and 80s.
Well, I think this older generation is almost forced into this new technology, right? For example, with banking, right? In the past, mobile banking was, for a lot of generation, it was, a no-go. It was dangerous. It was, not good. And right now, everybody is using it. I don't know anybody anymore that calls their bank to make a payment, for example, right? It's all online banking. So I think the older generation will be forced into this new technology.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, my dad's in his late 70s. He's got a smartphone. He's
exactly.
And you know what? He doesn't ring me all the time on his smartphone to ask me how it works. Maybe because he can't work the phone option on it, but he's fine. He gets on with it. It works, and I think that's a great example of the technology being usable. Apps are usable. You can work out for yourself how that works. Yeah.
I mean, I saw something on LinkedIn this morning actually, and it was a person who's celebrating their grandfather at the ripe age of 97 years old using one of these QR payment methods. 97-year-old, imagine how, like, not just what we're talking about's changed over the course of his life. Like, he was probably around like when there was more horses on the street and stuff like that.
He probably bought his first goods trading horses or goats to buy them rather than
exactly that. I don't remember. It's more like it's it's all black and white in my memory. Maybe one particular person here does have a more recognition of what things might have been like back then.
I don't know who you're talking about. Cool. So just to bring everything back to what we're all doing here. We all work in the technology industry, auto ID, point of sale, particularly focused on the point of sale side of things. What are some of the technologies that BlueStar has available that helps people, particularly in the takeaway delivery market, to actually bring some of these solutions to market to address the requirements of this world that's changed so much over the last couple of years, and no doubt will continue to change over the next few years.
Yeah, I think one topic that we already discussed a little bit is in the food delivery. Of course, it's tablet sales where all these Deliveroo and Uber Eats, they get their orders basically on tablets on the printers, and then they get the receipts and basically start to deliver. I think this will change as well, because if you see in a restaurant, for example, right now, you see each delivery platform has their own setup, right? They have a printer, they have a tablet, and there's 6 different tablets, 6 different printers. It's very messy. And I think there's a lot of ISVs these days that kind of come up with solutions to bring that all back into existing POS. So it's more, it looks much better on the counter with just one POS instead of 6, 7 different platforms where they kind of order from. So that's a lot of changes, I think, that will take place on the ISV world, for sure.
Yeah, I think ISV partnerships is another key thing, isn't it? There's so many different solutions that are required to really make, whether it be a restaurant or a takeaway place or a ghost kitchen, a dark kitchen, whatever. There's so many different technological aspects, different solutions that have got to come together to make it all work seamlessly in front of the consumer. I think the ISV partnerships that we can that we have and that we can the massive network that BlueStar has, that we can introduce people. I think that's a really important aspect of how we can help, for example, a more traditional point of sale reseller to actually, just to add to their solution, to bring it, if needed, bring it forward to address that. Yeah,
I think as well as from our point of view at Star, we want to make it a lot easier for these ISVs to integrate into our products, and making technologies like Cloud Print available on more of our products is definitely helping out the trending change from people having a set tablet point of sale to using a cloud point of sale. Because like, what is a point of sale? It's where you purchase your goods. So that could be, you sat in your living room. That could be you at a counter in a store. That's what the point of sale is. And the technologies that are driving it from our point of view is cloud printing, which is where you can really get all these like cool AI things that we've spoken about, and that assist all the merchants. So yeah, I'd say from our point of view, the cloud printing's probably right up there, and all of our new products that are coming out have cloud printing in it. So
yeah, I think that's definitely an effect of the pandemic, isn't it? That the pandemic has pushed the point of sale out of the shop, the restaurant, the takeaway place, because it wasn't allowed to be in there. So the technology that's probably existed, maybe not in its ideal form for a number of years, has had to be perfected, because it's been pushed out. If you have to have contactless payment and contactless point of sale, then the technology has to have been made to allow that to happen. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think we know it's already happening. It's already continuing post-pandemic, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And then it's, us continuing to develop that technology. So in a idealistic world, we'll be able to have instead of cloud printing taking 1 or 2 seconds, which you won't notice if you're sat on your couch, but having that same technology, but with instant printing, that's a world I want to live in. Instant cloud printing, and then having all your barcode readers, your customer displays plug into the printer, which is the centralized hub of your point of sale. Having all that work together, and then sending the information back up to the cloud. You can make any USB scanner an IoT device. You can make any customer display an IoT device, all powered through cloud printing.
Definitely, yeah. I think all the other types of technology that complement that we have to offer. So mobile payment devices and some of the software and payment partnerships we're working on. Companies like TidyPay, for example, where we've got a payment partnership that can be integrated into the point of sale mobile devices, whether they need to print a receipt on the mobile device for people paying at the table, or whether it's simply an ordering and payment device, sending instructions for a food order back to a kitchen. I think there's definitely that range of different technologies combined with, let's not forget that you're probably still going to want a till in your restaurant. You're probably still going to want a cash drawer. There's probably going to be people that will want to pay cash, and so you've got to have all of that stuff, but you've also got to have all the new the newer, smarter,
full
payments.
High definition world.
Yeah, it's a transition rather than an overnight.
Well, that
change.
side of payments, I think, really changes when, it was back in the day, it was just a payment device in store. Right now, it's an all-in-one device. It's basically an Android computer where you can take all, ordering, all, POS basically setups on this device, and then also print. And I think that's where the market really heads to, because it's it can implement it in different kind of verticals in that scenario. So it's not just a payment device anymore. It's basically a full computer. It's an all-in-one.
Yeah. Good stuff. So all this talk of immediate beer and food ordering is actually making me feel pretty hungry. So we should probably go get some food, I guess. And it was great talking to you. Thanks very much for your contribution today, Jord Malcorps, Mitchell Chamberlain from Star.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I look forward to the next one. So
definitely, yeah. Thank you.